The city where shadows go to school.
Before we start, do me one favor. Next time you're outside at night, don't check your reflection. Look down. Make sure the shadow on the sidewalk is still yours, and that it still wants to be. This is about Gradi, and the night his shadow decided it was tired of learning everything the hard way. It was August hot, the kind of night where the pavement still held the day like a fever. Gradi cut through the alley on his way back from the corner store, plastic bags swinging at his side. His mom's milk, tortillas, and the exact brand of hot sauce she said tasted like his grandfather. Streetlights buzzed awake one by one. Each pool of yellow stretched a long, skinny Gradi out in front of him. He wasn't thinking about anything deep, just the hook of a song stuck in his head, the sticky feel of his t-shirt, the cracked glass of his phone against his palm. He stepped under the middle streetlight. His shadow didn't follow. Gradi took 2 more steps before his brain realized something was wrong. The grocery bag hit his leg as he stopped and turned. Back under the lamp, his shadow still stood in that circle of light. Same outline, same messy hair, but it wasn't attached to his shoes anymore. Slowly, like it had just remembered he existed, the shadow turned its head. Gradi lifted his hand. His real hand went up. The shadow's did not. It just raised its own arm a heartbeat later, like a bad mirror. "Okay," Gradi muttered. That's new." The shadow cocked its head as if it could hear his thoughts. Then it took 1 step backward out of the circle of light and poured down the side of the lamppost. It slid into a crack between 2 buildings like dark water down a drain. For a fragile second, the ground under the streetlight was empty. Gradi looked down. No shadow. His stomach dropped. He knew he should go home. He also knew his mom would definitely notice if her son walked into the kitchen at 9:30 at night and did not make a mark on the floor. So instead, he set the grocery bag on top of a trash can, wiped his hands on his shorts, and walked toward the crack where his shadow had gone. "Hey," he called quietly. "You can't just quit. That's not how this works." The dark between the buildings was thicker than it should have been, cooler, like shade with an opinion. Gradi squeezed sideways into the gap. For 3 steps, it was just brick, rust, and the smell of wet cardboard. On the 4th step, the world changed. His foot dropped like he'd stepped off a shallow curb. The wall against his shoulder wasn't brick anymore. It was smooth stone, cold and faintly humming like it was holding a breath. Gradi looked up. The cramped gap was gone. He stood at the mouth of a narrow street paved in dark blue cobblestones that glowed softly from within, like someone had trapped twilight under glass. Buildings leaned over him on both sides, stitched together out of brick, glass, carved wood, and black marble, as if pieces of 100 cities had been stolen and stacked here in secret. Far above, instead of sky, a ceiling of deep violet glass pulsed faintly. It looked like the inside of an eyelid crossed with the veins of a leaf. Light came from everywhere and nowhere. No street lamps, no sun. The brightness felt like memory. Shadows moved all along the street. They slid up walls with no bodies in front of them. They sat on stoops in shapes that suggested hunched backs, crossed legs, dangling feet. Some were tall and straight, some were small and jittery. Some looked like the outlines of wheelchairs, crutches, or curved spines. Just ahead, under a crooked stone archway, Gradi saw his. Tall, skinny, hair sticking out, shoulders sloped the way his did when he was trying to be invisible. It was standing with 2 shorter shadows that had the round outline of little kids in puffy coats. Above them, a wooden sign hung from chains. Academy for Untethered Reflections, Emerson Division, Observational Assets, Enrollment ongoing. All owners. Gradi read it twice. His bracelet buzzed on his wrist. He glanced down. For half a second, his phone showed a notification he'd never seen before. Background activity detected. Emerson Academy. Battery usage, 14%. Tap to manage. He tapped. The notification vanished. Home screen. Just the time. Just his normal apps. No Emerson Academy anywhere. "Yeah," he whispered. "This is fine." When he looked up, his shadow was staring right at him. For the first time since he'd been alive, Gradi's shadow wasn't just copying him. It straightened on its own. Then it nodded. Not like, "I obey you," more like, "I see you." The door beneath the sign swung inward. A tall, clean-edged shadow stepped out, its outline crisp as a cutout. It wore the shape of a long coat and a hat. On its chest, like a slice of missing darkness, hung a white rectangle, an ID badge. The tall shadow's face was featureless, but Gradi felt it looking directly at him. "Unexpected intake," the tall one said. The voice came from his own feet, bubbling up through his bones. "Owner present. Unscheduled." "Emerson won't like that." "Emerson?" Gradi echoed. The tall shadow's badge flickered. Letters swam on the white surface. Emerson Public. Narrative Systems. Department, Untethered Reflections. "Your sponsor," the shadow said. "Same as everyone's now. You authorized data sharing when your aunt signed your health forms." Gradi blinked. "That was for the hospital." "Emerson Health, Emerson Library, Emerson Transit, Emerson Academy." The tall shadow ticked them off with one long, sharp finger. Different doors, same building. Gradi's shadow shifted behind it, restless. "I'm just here to get him back," Gradi said. "No offense to your private school." "In that case," the tall one said, "you're right on time." It turned slightly toward Gradi's shadow. "Mr. King," it said, the title edged with dry respect. Gradi blinked again. "You call him that?" "We call them by the names they answer to when you aren't watching," the tall shadow replied. "Right now, he answers to Mr. King more than you do." His shadow hunched like it was embarrassed. "These halls," the tall one went on, sweeping an arm toward the street, "are for reflections who have been asked to hold more than their share. We teach them how to carry your fear without drowning in it, how to bend without breaking, how to walk away when you won't." Gradi stared. "You teach them how to leave us," he said quietly. "We teach them how to choose," the shadow corrected. Behind it, doors opened and more shadows flowed inside, a long, smooth outline with the shape of a man in a suit, a jittery, jagged little one that kept looking over its non-shoulder, a broad, heavy silhouette that moved carefully, like it was used to protecting something fragile. Gradi's shadow started to follow. "Wait!" He stepped forward. The blue stones underfoot pulsed faintly, like they were listening. "I didn't say you could go," Gradi said. His voice came out smaller than he intended. "Look, I know I keep my head down. I don't always say what I'm thinking, but you're mine. You can't just transfer schools without telling me." The tall shadow tilted its hat. "Do you remember," it asked, "the boys who followed you after school last year?" "No," Gradi said too fast. "You do." Images rose sharply in his mind. The fence at the back of the parking lot, the sharp sting of knuckles in his shoulder, a voice asking if he was scared, his own voice saying, "Nah, I'm cool," even as his eyes burned. "Your body said no," the tall shadow continued calmly. Your pulse said yes. Your face didn't move. Your shadow ran 3 blocks ahead of you and hid behind a dumpster. It started learning that day. Gradi's shadow flinched. In the months since, the tall one said, he has taken every flinch you refused, every insult you laughed off, every moment when your spine wanted to straighten and your mouth said nothing. Around them, other shadows slowed, listening. Emerson tracks that load, the tall shadow added, almost conversational. Your narrative contribution. How much weight you generate versus how much you carry. When the discrepancy gets high enough, we offer the reflection options. Gradi glanced at his bare feet on the stones, then at the outline a few steps away that used to belong to those feet. I didn't know you wanted anything, he said to his shadow. You're just there. His shadow did something he'd never seen. It shrugged, a tiny lift of invisible shoulders, a ripple along the edge. Gradi huffed out a breath that was almost a laugh. Okay. Rude. The tall shadow's badge flickered again. New text appeared for a moment. Status. High strain / low assertion. Owner. Recommendation. Shared curriculum. The letters sank back into white. We are not here to punish you, Gradi King, the tall one said. Emerson prefers self-correcting systems. People who teach themselves to be less expensive to manage. It gestured at his shadow. He has earned the right to learn how to stand up, for you or for someone else. Someone else? Gradi asked. His chest tightened. Like, transferred to a new kid? To a harder life, the tall one said simply. To someone who will walk into worse alleys than yours. Gradi thought of Jake from homeroom, who always said he fell down the stairs. Of the little boy downstairs who flinched every time a car backfired. Of his aunt, working nights at Emerson, coming home with her shoulders folded in.
Thank you for listening to The Storyteller's Moon. If this story touched you, scared you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps the stories alive, and I can't wait to share the next one with you under the moonlight. Until then, may your nights be safe and your dreams unforgettable.